All right, let's talk lower back love. You know that area that seems to act up after like almost every long day?
Yeah, for sure.
Well, we are diving deep today into Judith Hanson Lassiter and Mary Richards' Love Your Lower Back course.
Okay.
And get this, it's not just about like yoga poses and stretches.
Mm.
We're going to be talking anatomy, movement myths, really the works.
Yeah, what I find so fascinating about this course is how it like kind of flips the script on how, a lot of us think about movement in the first place.
Right.
We tend to think of our spine as that center, but Lassiter and Richards really argue that it's actually the pelvis that is like the powerhouse, the engine, so to speak, that drives everything.
Okay, like the engine analogy, I'm hooked already.
Right.
So if we've been like thinking about this all wrong, how does like understanding the pelvis as the engine actually change how we move like day to day?
Yeah, it's like a whole new perspective to consider.
Yeah.
Instead of always like thinking bend from the spine,
Yeah.
it's more understanding that every movement really begins in the pelvis and the spine just naturally follows.
Mm-hmm.
And think about, you know, when we force our lower back into a certain position, we're talking a lot about yoga today, we might actually be working against this like natural flow, which can lead to, some discomfort or even pain.
Yeah, that makes me think about all those hours we spend like hunched over our desks.
Right.
We're basically putting our lower backs in a constant state of yikes.
Exactly. And this is where, really understanding the natural curves of your spine becomes so important. And the course uses this like brilliant analogy, the three-legged stool.
Okay.
So imagine each leg of the stool represents a key part of your lumbar spine structure. When all three of these are balanced and aligned, then your lower back is, stable and happy.
So if even just one of those legs is like off, it throws like the whole system out of whack.
Exactly.
Like, building a house on like shaky ground, you're just asking for trouble.
Exactly.
And that's where I think like a lot of us, especially like in the yoga world, might be a little surprised by some of the things that Lassiter and Richards talk about in this course. Because like we've been taught certain cues with the best intentions, but they might actually be like causing more harm than good.
Right.
It's like we almost have to unlearn some things to really truly like love our lower backs.
It's true. It's like these cues are often aiming for a look or a specific alignment, but they don't always consider what's actually happening inside the body.
Right.
For example, how many times have we heard tuck your tailbone?
Oh, tell me about it.
Right.
I used to think I was doing myself like such a favor by like tucking away like crazy.
Yeah, and as this course points out, like that tucking action is actually flattening the natural curve of your lumbar spine, which puts a ton of pressure on those intervertebral discs.
Oh, okay.
Those like shock absorbers that we were talking about earlier.
Right. So tucking less equals happier discs.
Yeah.
Gotcha. What about like other cues? I know there's like
Oh yeah, tons.
big-
Another big one is like square your hips.
Yeah.
Especially in poses like Warrior One.
Yeah.
And again, like the intention is good stability, alignment. But what happens is when you force your hips into that square position, it can actually overstretch the ligaments in your sacroiliac joint, which down the road can lead to pain and instability.
So it's like we're trying to fit into a box that our bodies aren't necessarily designed for.
Exactly. Yeah. And then, there's anger your sit bones in twists.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll admit, like, I used to think I was getting a deeper twist by, like, pushing my sit bones down into the mat.
I
But
know, and I did that too. What were we supposed to be doing?
so instead of anchoring, it's more about allowing your spine to kind of rotate freely and initiating the movement from, you guessed it, the pelvis.
Okay.
Because when you force that movement from your sit bones, your lower back often ends up trying to like compensate. And we
Yeah.
know that can be a recipe for, discomfort.
Right. Okay, so like no more tucking, no more squaring, no more anchoring. What's the alternative?
Right.
What are we supposed to be doing with our bodies in these poses? It's like our whole approach to movement almost needs like a total makeover.
Right.
But here's where it gets really interesting to me.
Yeah.
The course also talks about the emotional side of things.
Yes.
Like how stress can actually manifest as lower back pain. So it's not just about like the physical alignment, but it's also about the mind-body connection, right?
Absolutely. And the course even goes so far as to recommend the work of Dr. John Sarno,
Okay.
who talks a lot about how like unprocessed emotions and stress can actually show up as physical pain, especially in the lower back.
Wait, seriously? So like my tight hips could be because of like unprocessed emotions?
It's It's pretty wild.
Mind blown.
Yeah. And this is where, this whole idea of core stability becomes even more intriguing
Okay.
because we tend to think of like core stability as six-pack abs, but it's so much more than that.
Yay.
It's this whole intricate system of muscles, fascia, even our breath,
Wow.
all working together to support the spine, influence our posture, and you're not going to believe this, but it can actually help regulate our stress response.
Hold up. Our core affects our stress response. Like how does that even work?
So get this, there's this powerful connection between your core and your vagus nerve,
Okay.
which is a major player in the parasympathetic nervous system, like rest and digest system.
Okay.
And so when your core is strong and functioning well, it can actually stimulate the vagus nerve, leading to like this calming effect throughout your entire body.
Okay, so a stronger core equals a calmer me. I am so here for that. But seriously, this is like all amazing information. So if someone is listening to this and thinking, okay, I need to like give my lower back some love, what are like some key things they can start doing right now?
Well, I think the biggest one is to really start paying attention to your pelvis. As you move throughout your day, sitting, standing, walking, even in your yoga practice,
Right.
just start to notice how your pelvis is initiating the movement. Are you leading with your pelvis, or are you kind of collapsing into your lower back?
And what about like those yoga cues that we were talking about earlier? Like, are there any simple swaps that people can make to like protect their lower backs?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So instead of tucking your tailbone, think about gently lengthening it down towards the earth.
Okay.
And instead of forcing your hips to square in a pose, find a range of motion that feels stable and spacious for your unique body.
Right. So it's like, it's all about like finding what feels right for you.
Exactly.
No more cookie cutter yoga poses.
Exactly. And,
Yeah.
if you're looking for a specific practice, the Love Your Lower Back course actually has this great like cat-cow intensive
Okay.
that's like perfect for beginners to explore those spinal movements safely.
I love that. Sometimes the simplest things are the most powerful. And for anyone who's like really wanting to go all in on the lower back love, I highly recommend checking out the full course on Judith Lasseter's website.
Yeah.
It is packed with insights that can truly change how you move and how you feel.
Oh, it's a game changer for sure. And here's like one final thought to leave you with.
Okay.
If our pelvis, the often misunderstood part of our body,
Right.
is the true engine of movement, what other parts of ourselves might we be misunderstanding or even misusing because of common beliefs or cues that we've been taught? It's an invitation to stay curious, keep exploring, and really listen to the wisdom of your own amazing body.
So well said. On that note, we'll leave you to ponder that. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of the lower back. Until next time, keep those engines running smoothly.